I've been dreading this video all week, if I'm being honest with you.
End of the line! Welcome back to Tied Down TV, the punk rock opinion show with me, Geoff.
I'm Danny.
And today we're doing top 5 post-hardcore albums. So
I'm not looking forward to it, if I'm being honest. I've been dreading this video all week, if I'm being honest with you, because post-hardcore, I don't really understand it. Yeah. I don't really understand it because what one thing is called post-hardcore and another thing is called post-hardcore. It can sound so fucking different, so I don't really understand myself what classes as post-hardcore. Look, I understand the dictionary meaning of post-hardcore. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Okay. But when picking this list, it was just a case of me getting like 20 records together that I considered could be classed as being in the pool of post-hardcore. Yeah. And then just picking what I think's the 5 of the best of that lot. Okay. But in terms of a genre, I haven't been looking forward to this, I must admit.
Well, the thing with post-hardcore, and I think when you've got a post, any genre, post-punk, post-rock, post-hardcore, it kind of means, to me anyway, this is how I always interpret it, because like post-punk, like you just said about post-hardcore, when you think about post-punk, like you've got bands like the Pop Group, don't sound anything like Gang of Four or Television, do you know what I mean? But they're all kind of thrown in as that. It's more of a, it's like it's taken the original core idea, so it's post-punk, so it's taken the core idea of punk, whether that be the DIY, you know, the instrumentation, but even the instrumentation got mixed up. But, you know, broadening, widening your sound, experimenting. Post-hardcore kind of intertwines with a lot of emo, I've found as well.
Well, yeah, going back to when we were younger, what people used to call post-hardcore, some of it was fucking shit, I think, that a lot of the bands that used to get called post-hardcore then. But that's what I mean, like there seems to be so... I don't truly understand what bands would class as post-hardcore, apart from a few obvious ones. Yeah, okay. Which is why I'm started off with what I guarantee is classed as a post-hardcore album, which is Repeater by Fugazi. This is the first album, when someone says to me, post-hardcore, this is the first album I think of. This is the album that comes straight into my head. It's obviously a brilliant album. One of your favourite bands, when you think about all the big heads of the early '90s, it influenced. You know, you think of like Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, Pearl Jam, all the big heads. I think as soon as you put it on, you hear the tune Turnover. It's you know you're in for something special. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just really it's probably worth more getting it on CD for the fact that you get the 3 extra songs on it as well.
3 songs, 7-inch, tagged on the CD, which has got some great tunes on it as well.
I like the way that Ian Mackay and Guy Picciotto like take turns in singing the songs. Yeah, you know what I mean. Kind
of tends to alternate on most of the albums. One sings one, the other sings the next.
I like that. It just gives each song a slightly different feel. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's all I've got to say about it. I think anyone watching this video probably agrees. Would probably put it on most lists.
It's a 10 for me. Like you picked it, I would pick. I fucking love that band so much. One of my favourites, like you said. Fucking brilliant.
So it was the most obvious choice for me. Fugazi, Repeater.
Every song on it's great.
Yeah, it is a fucking great album.
It's a great song. It's a great album. Yeah. So I'm gonna stick with the theme because, as I said, they're one of my favourite bands. So I've also picked Fugazi, and I've gone for In on the Killtaker. So this was the third album. Repeater was the first official album. Obviously, the 13 songs comp was the 2 EPs put together. So this is the third album. It's quite, it's chunky, noisy. Still got that Fugazi sound. Maybe a bit more of experimentation was starting to come in. It was the original recordings for it was with Steve Albini, but I know Mackay and that they weren't happy. And I don't think I think even Albini said like he botched it. Do you know what I mean? Messed it up. So they went off and recorded again in their ear like they usually do and stuff like that. It's just fucking great though, like much like you say about Repeater, like for me this just about every song on it is great. 2 of possibly, that are in some of my all-time favourite Fugazi songs, Return of the Screw and Great Cop, which is, when you listen to the song, is a very big insult in it. You'd make a great cop. I love the fucking artwork on this as well. So that was I can't remember his name now. Jem Cohen, I think it is, the filmmaker, found it in New York. There's a Polaroid of, and it's obviously a photograph of the Washington Monument, which fit to them. It's all sun faded, and also had all this bit of writing on it. And the last bit of the writing says, what is it? The adversary workers iniquity evildoers, this is big because people in high places are in on the killtaker. I always wondered what the title meant. It's a bit of a weird thing, isn't it? But in terms of it just as an album, it's fucking great. Fucking great. One of the best bands. Like Danny said, you think of post-hardcore, you think of Fugazi, I do, you do. And as has been documented many times in our videos, I love Discord records as well. But that's my first pick, in on the killtaker, Fugazi.
My second pick, I feel, is the most underrated band. Definitely on my list.
Okay.
And I've got a CD here, and it's Our Own Wars by the band Small Brown Bike. Definitely the most underrated band. I think don't hear enough people talking about these. The opening song, The Cannons and Tanks, as soon as you hear it, it's a fucking amazing song, but the quality of the album does not drop. It's great all the way through. The dual vocal, right, so I think that why I like this band so much, like younger guys, people out there might know the band, might be who know the band Title Fight. This reminds me of a little bit of Title Fight before Title Fight.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so there's like the dual vocal thing going on where two guys kind of screaming at once.
Yeah.
And it also sounds like it's gonna like fall apart at any second. It's really, you know what? It's one of them bands, just by their sound and the way they play, you can close your eyes and imagine what a live show. You can imagine how they were on stage. So it really does remind me of Title Fight, especially the Floral Green album. Like I say, the production is pretty ropey, but that adds to it. It really fucking adds to it. It's really melodic. Which brings me to this. True or false? True or false? Small Brown Bike got their name as their members used to fix a lot of bikes.
True.
It is true. Well done.
I've heard that before, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, that's somewhere in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
That was a good question, like that.
So yeah, Small Brown Bike, Our Own Wars.
Great, another great pick. That's a fucking great album. It is an underrated band. So pick number 2 for me, I've gone for Moss Icon, Lyburnum, Wits End, Liberation Fly. It's a bit of a staple, although it got released in '93. It's the only full length I think the band recorded. It got recorded in '88, somewhere around there, between '88 maybe in 1990. They split up in '91, and then it got released in '93. And I know the guitarist Tony Joy, I don't think he was very happy with it. He said he kind of already moved on, and the sound he had in his head for this, the more he tried to aim for it, the further away he kind of got. And he said that's down to himself as well, as, you know, miscommunication is, he just didn't have the knowledge and thing. To put the whole thing together, the packaging and that, but it's fucking great. For me, this is just class. And you can hear again the influence this band had on a lot what came after it. It's noisy, but it's also got the loud, quiet dynamic thing, very stream of conscious lyrics. And the second half of it actually goes a little bit more, I've heard people call it like hippie hardcore or something, I don't know, but a bit more like jammy. Like the title track's 11 minutes long. It's brilliant though. Yeah. For me, it's great though. It's fucking class. Like I say, influential on emo as well. It often gets tagged in emo categories, but it feels a little bit more, I don't know, the obtuse lyrics and the sound being a bit noisy and jagged in places definitely for me fits it a bit more in the post-hardcore camp. But if you this is definitely like, if you've not heard this, I'd recommend going check it out if you're interested in post-hardcore and emo, especially the earlier development of it. It's just great. It's fucking brilliant. I mean, I can't really say much else about it, to be honest. Like, it's great. It's worth checking it out. They're a very important band in the development of the genre. Yeah.
I said obviously before, and you agreed, the Fugazi was the most obvious to me. Like someone said, post-hardcore. This is probably something that is also in that list of being something that's quite obvious, and that is Refused, Shape of Punk to Come. I remember when we were younger, that fucking new noise was fucking everywhere. It was literally everywhere. Brilliant. You'd hear that. You know what I mean? It seemed to be everywhere. You'd go out somewhere, whether it be
like fucking film soundtracks, wasn't it?
You'd go to a club, you'd watch a film, you'd go to a gig, it would be played everywhere. And I think back then, with us only being, because this was like, 98, 99, something like that, we were just kind of cutting our teeth back then. And I definitely didn't appreciate how innovative and how much of a game changer this was at the time. I used to just hear the song, and I always quite liked the song, do you know what I mean? Yeah, okay. But I kind of put them maybe in a category they didn't deserve. There's a lot of fringes who were into that band back then, do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it wasn't until years later, when obviously I started like learning about punk and hardcore as I got older and older and older, and hearing Refused other earlier stuff. You revisit this album years later and you go, Jesus, fucking hell! When this came out, then there was nothing. There was nothing. You know, this was. I mean,
the title's perfect.
Yeah, well, if you're going to call your album "The Shape of Punk to Come," that's quite an arrogant title.
Got some balls, like.
Yeah, that's quite an arrogant title. You better be coming with something different but also good. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And it's got moments of electro, jazz, there's even swing moments in it, like there's an oboe or something like that in it. You know,
spoken word bits.
Yeah. And it's and when it goes heavy, it's so good. That guitar tone and that.
Yeah. What's your best tune?
Oh, it's probably, apart from New Noise, which is the obvious one, the second one probably Liberation Frequency. Yeah.
Summer Holiday versus Punk Routine is my favourite, but yeah.
I think that's like a really good line as well. Where he keeps where he's back. But this was another like quite an obvious pick when you said to me we're doing a post-hardcore one. I thought straight away. I thought, oh, for fuck's sake! But I thought Fugazi and I thought Refused. So. There you go. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, that title, just what you're saying, obviously the jazz, but The Shape of Punk to Come, it's a homage to Ornette Coleman's free jazz album called The Shape of Jazz to Come.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I know you're a bit of a jazz fan. You got some jazz shit down there.
I certainly have, But yeah, and I loved that even way back when. I think now I appreciate even more, like you say.
Well, like I say, when you revisit it, when you're a lot older and you realise...
But also, you've got that knowledge of the bands that have come after it, and you hear that influence through them all, don't you?
Well, yeah, it was definitely a game-changing album.
Split up after it, well,
yeah, straight after it, wasn't it? So yeah,
it's almost like we can't really do better than that, can we?
Yeah. But yeah, Refused, Shape Punk, The Shape of Punk to Come. I Refuse.
Class. My next pick. This is possibly an obvious one as well. To be fair, I've gone for a Yank Drive Like Jehu. Just fucking.
Noisy,
but I love this album. It's their second one. John Reese and Rick Froberg obviously are the guitarists, and obviously Rick Froberg was the frontman. It was released on a major label on Interscope. John Reese, the guitarist, the lead guitarist, is also in Rocket from the Crypt, and I don't know how true it is, and I might be misremembering a little bit of this story, but it's something to do like he only agreed to sign it if they'd signed both bands.
Mm-hmm.
This was the album obviously they put out, and it's a game changer. I think it's so fucking essential. It's classic. I love his vocals, man. Froberg's vocals, and passed away just under a year ago, didn't he? Very sadly. Hot Snakes as well. They did Hot Snakes after this, which was fucking great. It's noisy, and like the songs go on, like I think it's like 3 or 4 of the songs clocking over 7 minutes, but the dynamics, the weird, the melodies there, even though it sounds noisy, it's just hugely influential on stuff that came after it. Though, like I say, it's just it kicked balls. I've seen that T-shirt a lot on a lot of the bands that came after it that were called post-hardcore or emo or whatever. But again, much like Fugazi, much like Refused, for me, this was probably one of the first ones popped into my head straight away when we're thinking about doing their post-hardcore. It's one of the best in the 90s for me. Absolute classic.
My next pick, I've gone a little bit more modern, and I've gone England as well. 2011, Basement, I Wish I Could Stay Here. The reason this was quite an easy pick for me was I love like 90s Midwest sound and emo.
Yeah.
This is very influenced by bands like Sunny Day Real Estate, The Promise Ring, Braid, but also bands like Nirvana as well.
Yeah.
The song Yoke is one of my favourite songs. It's played at like a hardcore pace, really furious, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the song Grayscale that comes straight after it. It's got like the most beautiful outro you've ever heard, like twinkly guitars. Johnny Marr would be proud of them, do you know what I mean? Okay. And then the last song, March, it's got like a much more of a grungy rock, like alternative rock sound. Do you know what I mean? Which is maybe letting us know what's coming on the album that come after this, which is Colour Me in Kindness, which a lot of people, I think that's what more people prefer than this one, actually. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of like the, but that's got much more of a grungy rock sound, whereas this has got more of, I guess, like an emo-y kind of post, what you associate with like, Midwest, like post-hardcore sound. And I definitely prefer this one myself. I got big into these. I mentioned Title Fight before because someone recommended them and said, like, you know, they're very similar. They told the Title Fight and that, and I didn't think I'd find anyone as good as Title Fight, who makes this type of stuff, but Basement running pretty close, man, especially on this album. So it was, really good album. I wish I could stay here, Basement.
Nice. I've not heard that, to be fair, so I'm going to...
You'll like it, man. You'll really like it.
You'll
definitely
never
like
checked
it.
out. So my next pick, I've gone Nation of Ulysses, 13-point program to destroy America. I could have probably picked 5 albums off Discord, but anyway, this is off Discord. This came out in 91. These, funny enough, were quite influential on Refused in that shake punk cum era.
Yeah.
They used to wear suits, Nation of Ulysses on stage. They were described, I think it was youthful rock and roll rebellion, leftist radical politics, and abstract ramblings or something like that. The band, I feel like a lot of it's probably tongue-in-cheek. I mean, I'm not saying they weren't sincere about what they were singing about, but I mean, like, the way they presented themselves and marketed themselves in that way. They said they made weapons, not albums, things like that. Like, they were claiming to try and start a whole new movement, like youth, for the, the disaffected, disenfranchised youth and all that. But it's, oh God, I love it. It's got like a little bit of that MC5, rebellion, that kind of motor mouth, like kind of shouting off.
On Discord?
Yeah, Discord, yeah. Like I say, came out in 91. They had a lot of fucking things coming out then, didn't they? But this was, like I say, highly influential, again, on a lot of stuff that came after it. I feel this is a little bit undersung, and it might not be for everyone. It's great that they come, there's bits of like trumpet coming in that's quite free jazz thinking, tying into that Refused thing. The song, I think it was Today I Met the Girl I'm Gonna Marry, starts with when I say I'm in love, you best believe I'm in love, LUV, which I've heard on loads of songs actually, but
Shangri-La's
and New York Dolls did it, didn't he, as well? It's fucking great. Again, though, like, it's got, it's catchy, but it's also a little bit disjointed, influenced stuff. I'd say you could probably hear a bit of it in like the likes of Glassjaw and things like that as well. Some of the
what? I've not heard it, but you've sold it to me. I think I'm going to listen to that when I get in. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
You said there.
Yeah, there you go. That's my 4th pick. Anyway.
My final pick is my favourite band of the last 5 years. I'm absolutely obsessed with this band. Fiddlehead, Between the Richness from 2021. Recommended to me by my mate Gaz about 3-4 years ago. He recommended to me not long after this album came out. He messaged me and he said, if you really like the likes of your Title Fights and that, get onto these. And this band, you talk about perfect discographies. Yeah. I think these are as close you're going to get to a band that's got a perfect discography. You've got this, you've got Springtime and Blind, Death Is Nothing to Us. All amazing albums. Nothing drops below a 9 out of 10. They are that good. But I've decided to go with this one because this is as close to a perfect album as you're going to get. Members of Have Heart and Basement. Pat Flynn from Have Heart, a singer, fucking brilliant vocal range, brilliant lyricist. A lot of the lyrics deal with loss, relationships, and probably most important to me is a lot of it deals with a guy who's struggling, approaching middle age. Mm-hmm. So it probably came along at the right time for me when I first heard it, and I was listening to some of the songs like Lay Low and stuff like that. I was like, Jesus, I can relate to this stuff. Yeah. And they really are an incredible band. I managed to... He recommended them to me, I recommended them to you, and then before you know it, we went to see him a few months ago, and it was... How mental was that show?
Fucking
unreal. I've seen Bulldoze, I've seen Cold as Life, I've seen some of the toughest sounding bands ever, but I walked out of there with more lumps on my head than any fucking...
The amount of people landing on me, like...
Honestly, it was
amazing, wasn't it? Because you said you'd seen footage from another show on the tour, and it just didn't look like the crowd was that into it.
Yeah.
As soon as they started...
Oh my God, it was just ridiculous.
Like 6 people jumped off the stage and barely hit a note, it was off.
It was incredible, and it was like that all the way through.
Yeah, it didn't stop.
Yeah, it didn't stop.
Pat Flynn jumped in and everything.
Yeah, it was amazing. At one point, I remember being on top of the crowd myself and looking over, and there was literally, no joke, it wasn't even that much of a big venue, was it? Gorilla in Manchester. No. And there was literally, I was on top and I looked over while I was on the crowd set, and there was literally about 12 other bodies going across, do you know what I mean? It was ridiculous, including Pat Flynn. Yeah. It was absolutely incredible.
It was.
And they are, I'm going to say, they are my favourite band of the last 5 years. They've not done a thing that I don't think is anything less than unbelievable.
That's the pick of the bunch, I agree. All three, but all 3 of them are actually pretty amazing.
Fiddlehead, Between the Richness.
There you go. My last pick is a big band for me. Gone with In Casino House by At the Drive-In. I've talked about in our Holy Grails one about Relationship Command being a big game-changing album for me. We never pick an album twice. This one also is just, so after I heard Relationship Command, this is the album that came out before it, funny enough, the second one. I got onto this and I was like, oh, fucking hell, this is great as well. maybe less chaotic and noisier than Relationship Command. The production's a little bit thinner, but it was recorded, I think, live in the studio with just minimal overdubs. The debut album is okay, bit pop punky, not great. This steps it up to the next level for me. This was when Omar was on guitar, and he started trying to get the rhythm section to play with like salsa rhythms, things like that, because they're from El Paso, Texas, and obviously they're Hispanic, and they wanted to like incorporate their surroundings and things like that as well into the sound. So the obviously the time signatures don't just stick to 4/4 and things like that. It's fucking great. The songs are so many good songs on here for me. Hula Hoop Wounds, Alpha Centauri. The song, like, again, like talking about obtuse lyrics, Cedric's lyrics can be very obtuse, very hard to decipher. There's a song called Napoleon Solo, where when you know a bit of the backstory, it's actually quite clear one to follow. And it's two of his friends died in a car crash on a night just as they were about to go and play a show. So he went on and played the show, and while they're playing the show, after driving and getting heckled like to death. And he came off feeling grief and feeling like he'd been dehumanized a bit. And then he kind of picked himself, and he wrote that song anyway about that experience. And then when you know that and you listen to the lyrics, it's fucking heartbreaking. So good. Just a great band, so influential. It's like I say, like if you want to go into something like, it's post-hardcore, maybe a little bit experimental. It's kind of like where they found their sound. Anyway, definitely led on to the one that changed the game, and then they split up. But check this one out as well in Casino Out at the Drive-In.
It's not over. So we're talking about post-hardcore.
Yeah.
We're talking about people who they expand on their sound from hardcore.
Yeah.
Got another true or false question for you.
Oh.
True or false? Vatican Commandos guitarist and techno DJ Moby actually has hair the same height and diameter as Art Garfunkel. The strands are just so fine they can't be seen with the human eye.
False.
I'm afraid it's true.
That's good.
That's it for this week.
Oh God, what's your honourable mention?
Oh, sorry, yeah. My honourable mention is Slip by Quicksand.
I'm going Novelty by Jawbox.
What are we doing next week?
So next week, we're going to be doing top 5 Skinhead albums.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, so we'll elaborate a bit more on that.
Next week, yeah.
And thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, go ring that bell. Jump over on the socials, Instagram, Facebook. Give us a follow and a like. Thank you very much.
That's what I say! That's what I do!